dear esteemed investors, partners, and friends, it gives me great pleasure to invite you to a very special webinar marking the completion of Taksh first year. To commemorate this milestone, we are deeply honored to host a conversation with none other than Mr. K.N. Sivasubramanian, one of the most celebrated CIOs and fund managers of his time. Fondly known to many of us as Siva Sir, he has been a mentor and guiding light in my own journey. His distinguished career as a chief investment officer and a fund manager at Franklin Templeton stands as a testament to vision, discipline, and long-term conviction. As one of the early torch bearers of India's asset management industry, he delivered an extraordinary record of 20% CAGR returns in 20 years period, which is 38x return for his investors. Such a legacy has not only shaped the portfolios, but also set the benchmarks for the entire industry. It is truly my and Taksh's privilege to welcome him as our special guest. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, Dinesh.
Yeah. So as we start, we look forward to drawing from your experience, sir, the current market dynamics, the challenges and the opportunities that lies ahead, and going forward, how one should navigate this market cycles well. So what we have tried, sir, is to bucket into few broader themes, which is your journey, your process, your stock picking ability, and then moving on to more macro and India specific questions. So thank you for giving us this opportunity, and let me begin with your own journey, sir. Having compounding wealth for so many years, I would like to start with asking you what has been the single most defining principle that shaped your investment philosophy.
Yeah, first let me thank Taksh and Dinesh for having me here. There is a saying, a journalist is as good as his last story. And, in the case of fund managers, the fund manager is as good as his last NAV.
Very true.
In my case, the last NAV was in 2014. So I don't know whether I'm the right person to be addressing this August gathering of very young portfolio managers and investors. I'm more of a dinosaur than a wise owl. So with that caveat, let me...
But they're still going strong.
So that's the caveat. Let me begin by saying that the single most important thing for a fund manager is to have an open mind. And I'm saying this with all humility because one of the biggest mistakes in my career was because I did not have an open mind. In the case of a company called Eicher, I was too close to where the action was. I was based in Chennai, and I think late 90s, the Eicher group bought the Enfield company in a slump sale for 4 crores. It was much lower than the salaries of many fund managers today. And, I knew the earlier management, the quality of the product, etc. And I sort of totally wrote off the foray of Eicher into the two-wheeler business. Also, I couldn't ride a motorcycle then or even today. So I had no clue about performance motorbikes and the hold they had on the imagination of youngsters. So I should have reached out to people younger than me or people who knew about the industry to get inputs, which I didn't do. I was more focused on the truck business of Eicher because I knew trucking. And that sort of blindsided me, and I missed the whole journey of Eicher from just a market cap of less than 500 crores to almost 2 lakh crores today, 1,75,000 crores. It's a big miss. And the miss was mainly because I was too close to the action, one. So I couldn't keep a distance and look at it dispassionately. Two, if I had a blind spot, I should have reached out to people who knew the business and got their inputs. I didn't do that. So my advice would be to keep an open mind. Please reach out to experts if we don't have the necessary knowledge of a particular industry, of a particular business. Get inputs from your colleagues who probably know more about that business, and then take a decision.
Great, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, like, very humble of you to talk about mistake, but I'm sure, sir, delivering 20% CAGR for 20 years is not a joke. So anything, sir, on the positive side, if I may just ask you, would have shaped your principles and that trajectory of the fund, which took it to this level? Means anything on the positive side will also be very helpful to understand.
Frankly, I think 20, 25 years back, the investment landscape was totally different.
Yep.
Some of the marquee companies of today were available for market caps of less than 1,000 crores. Today, in the micro cap is 1,000 crore market cap. And the competition was very limited. The industry was just at a nascent stage, and hardly anybody looking at companies from a rigorous research perspective. Many of the Indian brokers in Bombay were not used to rigorous research as such. You had individual investors who were very good investors. They had their own research, but institutional research was still in its infancy, and many companies were available at such mouth-watering valuations that it was very difficult to go wrong. And also the market was more forgiving. The media coverage was less. So if we made mistakes, very few people knew about it. We were able to, come out of those mistakes without too big a damage to the portfolios.
Sure.
And our competitors were making similar mistakes. So the bar was much lower. The opportunities were much higher. Valuations were quite attractive, and India was just taking off.
Correct.
So it was very difficult to go wrong given the circumstances then. Today, the landscape has changed totally.
Correct. Fair enough, sir. Sir, coming to the question of extreme volatility and the market drawdowns, and I'm sure, sir, you would have seen in your cycle many issues which we are again grappling with: geopolitical issues, global issues, and all kind of issues. So what inner discipline or framework helped you to stay rational while others would have panicked during those periods of time? Anything on that, sir?
All of us are human. I think when you go through massive drawdowns in stock prices, I think all of us will be worried. And even if the fund manager is not worried, the sales guys will put pressure on you. The investors will be worried. But fortunately, in my case, we had a very understanding kind of management, allowed us to make mistakes, at the same time allowed us to hold on to convictions. But volatility is a part and parcel of this business, and we should be prepared for that. Volatile times are the best times to pick good quality companies. So some amount of liquidity should be maintained in the portfolio, and we need to use volatility as a opportunity to buy into strong companies.
Got it. Sir,
I think one way of not letting volatility affect you is to keep away from the constant attention which media focuses on the stock market. So especially in a bear market kind of a scenario, when you have huge drawdowns like we had in 2020 or 2007-8, it is good to probably put your head down, focus on research rather than be disturbed by the external influences of media or other negative influences.
Fair. Thank you, sir. Sir, if I may ask you a question on, let's say, portfolio building or stock selection. Whenever, sir, you identified a company, what were 2-3 non-negotiable markers where you would just put your foot down and this would be, if these are the metrics not available, I will not participate in this company. Anything, sir? 2, 3 non-negotiable markers?
Again, this is something you learn over a period of time. Uh, uh, Especially in an emerging market like India, where promoters are not, you need to be very careful about promoters, quality of management. So that is one thing which is non-negotiable. But having said that, I think when we look at screening a company, quality of the business will take precedence over quality of management, number one.
Okay.
But while you may go wrong in assessing a business, the market gives you an opportunity to exit.
Okay.
If you go wrong on assessing a management, it will impact your brand. So
Correct.
you need to be careful more about assessing the quality of management rather than quality of business. So, but from a return perspective, quality of business is more important than management.
Sir, has there been any instance where you would have owned those businesses because they are good businesses, great businesses, scalable, but would have had to exit because of loss of faith in the management, as you said? Has there been any kind of instances like that, or many?
I think over a 25-year career, these things do happen. You do go wrong. We are all human, and we do make mistakes in assessing managements. But over a period of time, I've become wary of managements who share too much. Of course, now there are checks and balances in place, and information sharing has to be equal to all participants in the market. But that was not the case even 10 years back or 15 years back. And managements were over zealous in sharing information. Generally, you need to be very careful because many of them have an hidden agenda, and we shouldn't get too carried away.
Sir, in this current world, which is the communication flow is just too high, how do you segregate the noise versus the real business or real management quality? Like how difficult or easy? I mean, just coming to present. Is it very difficult? Is it getting difficult? Just from your experience point of view.
It depends. One, if you're in the heart of action, for example, you're in Mumbai, and you keep meeting people like you at various analyst meets, or even on a informal basis, you do keep meeting each other. So there is some kind of an echo chamber, and you do get influenced by opinions of others. Number one, two. You are constantly in the media gaze, you or somebody known to you. So you have to absorb in all those influences. One way of probably negating the influence is to not meet people like you too often. If we meet people in the same business, obviously the only thing we think about 24 hours a day is investment.
Correct.
It is not the amount of time you spend which matters. It is the quality of time you spend which matters in assessing a company, whether it's worth investing in or not.
Sure. Sir, before we close this stock selection and portfolio building, sir, any particular holding you are very proud of that you would have identified at a very just the start of the business and its growth opportunity, and you held it on for longest period of time, which really reinforced your investment philosophy, and you really felt very happy to hold it on for 10, 12 years time? Anything particular?
Quite a few companies, but I don't think I was the only one who bought into those companies or held those companies. They're all household names today. Even then, they were highly regarded. IT, whether it's Infosys or Wipro, or in private banking. It was the beginning of the growth in the private banking space. and likes of HDFC just started their life as a listed company in the 90s. So, or telecom. Telecom was a nascent sector, and of course, there were not too many companies listed, but the company which got listed then, was even then regarded as a very good company to be invested in. So these are some of the stocks and sectors feel good about. But I don't think I was the only person who invested in them. Other fund houses also invested in them, not just us. But in terms of exposure, probably we were more exposed to some of these stocks and sectors relative to some of the other fund houses.
And also, sir, from a long-term longevity point of view, it would have been.
Yeah, I think as far as long-term assessment is concerned, I think many of us are short-sighted. We cannot think beyond 1 or 2, 3 years. But at that point of time, banking, if not IT, presented a very clear case of being a long-term play on India. And there was market share gains to be got from the public sector banks. The private banks were too small at that point in time, and just by gaining market share from the PSU banks, they could grow very fast. So, which explains why somebody like HDFC grew almost 20-25% compounded till the time Mr. Puri retired.
Sure. So coming to more topical question, which I'm sure all the investors and the partners have in mind, is the current situation, both on the global side as well as on the domestic side, starting from geopolitics to trade, tariff, Trump tantrums. So how do you see this reshaping the global trade flows, supply chain, capital movement, and its implication, direct, indirect, positive and negative for India?
So, as far as this question, it's a very complicated and complex question. And we don't know whether the current policies are set in stone. Presidents may come and go. And it is the US president who is sort of muddying the global trade waters by imposing tariffs without rhyme or reason. But one thing I'd like to remind people who are on this call, we faced similar situations earlier. May not be the same kind of geopolitical risk, but something similar over the last 20-30 years. So in the short term, these look like very negative kind of factors. But if you look back, 10 years from today, this will be just a blip in the upward journey of the stock market.
Wow. So, just from a India perspective, how do you see growth, liquidity, inflation, interest rates panning out? We seem to be in a very good position from a macro perspective as of now. However, there is a issue around exports, and we don't know how it gets addressed over the next 3 to 6 months. But overall, sir, your view on how do you see India shaping up under the current political administration from a demographic point of view, and obviously the recent GST, which is one of the big policy announcement, hopefully expected today, in terms of reforming the domestic sectors?
I think the government has done a good job in bringing the macro under control, especially after COVID, when we're forced to sort of loosen the purse strings. But we have to accept the fact that India is a much bigger economy today than it was in 90s or 2000. So the growth rate, obviously, that we are seeing today is on a much higher base. We may not be able to touch the same kind of growth rates we saw in 2005 to 2006. Yeah. So that kind of growth rates may not be possible because, one, the base is higher, and also the earlier growth rates were fueled by bank loans to projects which later on didn't should not have been funded in the first place. Okay, so I think the simplification of GST, while it's the right step, there are macro implications. Obviously, the tax kitty will be hit, and to that extent, the macro stability we saw, now that will get impacted a little bit more. So the deficit will be much higher. So that has to be managed. I don't know how they will be able to manage that, either by way of divestment or whatever. But divestment is a one-off kind of thing. This year they may sell IDBI Bank to, sort of bridge the shortfall in GST collection if they simplify GST. But what happens next year? So the GST simplification, if it leads to growth, higher growth, and which translates into higher tax collection, maybe part of the hit can be bridged, number one. Two, as far as the export issue is concerned, the listed companies may not be impacted too much by the tariff imposed on India by US. But having said that, many of the sectors which are going to be hit are, labor intense.
Yeah.
So to that extent, I think there may be impact on the consumption side. So the loss of jobs can be quite severe if the tariff imposition of tariff continues. If it is going to be a short-term kind of thing, probably we will be able to overcome it. But India is not dependent too much on exports, number one. We are more of a domestic economy. So the impact on GDP growth may not be too much in the short run.
Yeah. Sir, just you spoke about job growth. Obviously, because of this tariff thing, we are seeing some of the sectors like textile or gems and jewelry can be under severe pressure if this continues, as you rightly said. Sir, also on the job front or job displacement front, I had a query on the advent of technology, especially the way AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, LLM models, and all those. There were lots of investment which is going on by this so-called Magnificent Seven plus many other companies and private equity guys. Sir, what is your assessment? Whatever you are reading, whatever you are hearing, speaking to people, what is your assessment for of this technology-related job displacement for India and Indian tech sector? Is it a worry area or it is just a transitionary phase?
It is a worry. While it may be transitory, but it is a definite worry in the short run, because it looks like many of the routine jobs, routine coding jobs, etc., can be done by AI, and to that extent, these jobs can be replaced. So, but here I'll have to defer to what Mr. Nilakani and others have been saying, that while AI will impact the business, it's not like they're going to stand still. They will be reinventing themselves, and many applications are legacy applications. Impact of AI, for example, the airline industry, getting even a simple part approved, the lead time is very long, 10 years or so. So, for example, if your customer is an airline and you're doing some software development or maintenance, AI is not going to impact the airline industry immediately. Maybe reservations it will impact.
Yeah.
But many of the other mundane tasks, which are legacy applications, in many industries, the cycle is very slow moving. So it will give time for these companies to adjust. So while part of the business will get impacted, it's not as if the whole business will get impacted.
Correct.
But from a jobs perspective, the fear is real. Because I think Indian colleges have completely reoriented the curriculum and the graduate output to service the IT sector as it exists today. Now, the kind of skills needed in an AI world, they're not prepared. The graduates are not prepared to work in a system where AI will be the prime driver. So that will take time and adjustment. And companies also will take time to retrain. And IT sector has been the driver of consumption in most of India, especially South and West India. So it is not only IT which will be affected. There are a lot of ancillary industries, real estate to, transportation, a lot of industries which will get impacted if IT jobs get impacted.
Sir, just your assessment, because there are many reports floating around talking about either 10% to 30% kind of job displacement which can take place. Sir, any assessment, just your gut feel or judgment, how much jobs are at risk or requires reskilling?
My guess is almost everybody needs to be reskilled, from CEOs to entry-level graduate. But in terms of I don't know whether there are going to be job losses. Net, there may not be job losses, but people will be let go, replaced by people with the right skills. There may be jobless growth for maybe a year or two, till the industry understands how AI is going to impact their business. As of now, we are all talking in the air. There are people who are saying AI will create new jobs. Okay. Now, what are those jobs? Do we have the skills to take up those jobs? Definitely, people will come up with the right skills. Already, Coursera and all others are saying that India is one of the largest markets for courses in AI, machine learning, etc. So people are already, reskilling themselves. Middle managers are taking up courses in online courses on AI. Graduates are taking up, even school children. There are boot camps for school children to study about the basics of AI. So that is happening. It's not happening fast enough.
So, and world is moving fast.
Yeah, so there will be a period of readjustment. So maybe 1 or 2 batches of graduates may get impacted. I've heard this year some of the graduates from the best schools, engineering schools, computer science graduates who have been offered jobs, 6 months down the line, they've been let go. Very good paying, high paying jobs, they've been let go. And these guys are not bad. They're far better than many of the graduates from other engineering colleges. But unfortunately, they got selected for a high-paying job. And 6 months down the line, it's not because they're not competent enough. Microsoft is now deciding that they want a headcount reduction. And the guy who's come in today is the first to be let go. Not because he's not competent, but because they want a headcount reduction.
Correct.
Even Microsoft doesn't know how it is going to impact their business, but they don't want to be caught napping with excess staff on their hands. So they're taking a preemptive step to cut. Unfortunately, the downside of that is there are people who have their hopes built on a high-paying job. Those hopes are dashed.
Correct. Sir, the large part of innovation over last many years have been from West, but now we are seeing a significant shift in innovation also starting to happen from countries like China. On the incremental technology, if I may just say, the electric vehicle, artificial intelligence, the deep sea kind of programs, and also biotech for that matter. So how do you see this transformation playing out in the world order and what it means for India?
Clearly, China has caught up with the West in terms of innovation. Initially, their research was derivative. It was more copycat kind of innovation, more incremental.
Correct.
Something built on that. Now
Correct.
they came out with the original stuff. And there is a famous saying of Buffett: "Don't bet against America." So that used to be the case.
Yeah.
Because America was an open society and it welcomed scientists and mathematicians, people from all over the world. Talent from wherever it was, it welcomed them. But I think of late we are seeing barriers being erected in US. So I think if this continues, China probably will start outpacing the US in many new areas. I would still not bet against the US because US is still
large innovation.
One of the greatest countries in terms of innovation. But these barriers which are being erected in the US will keep away, meritorious students or scientists. A lot of project funding has been cut in the US. Many good scientists are looking for work elsewhere. They're moving to Europe. They're moving to other parts of the world. So I think I would still not bet against US because this may be a passing phase. Like I said, presidents may come and go. Okay, but it is never worked to bet against the US. But China is really caught up in defense tech, in AI, in EV, for example. So China is probably the biggest rival for the US. And the only negative about China is, one, the demographics is now going to work against them. It is a graying country. And it's not an open society. You need an open society for innovation to flourish.
Correct.
Tomorrow, some company comes up in China and the Politburo doesn't like the promoter, they will arrest him. It has happened. 3 years back, quite a few businessmen disappeared. So that, I think, will work against China. Hopefully, some of the bad habits of the Chinese are now being copied by the Americans. The Trump has arm twisted Intel into giving the government a stake.
Like nationalization kind of a thing.
Yeah, he's arm twisting NVIDIA to share part of the profits on sale of chips to China. These are things which a normal democratic government will not do. So, but I think it's a passing phase. All said and done, it's a democracy and this is an autocracy.
Fair, sir. So coming to India and its policies, we have seen after COVID, and it was rightly required to push growth, and government really did well in terms of pushing infrastructure and the CapEx program very aggressively. But now, sir, we are seeing a shift in incremental push towards consumption and defense spending. So what are the implications for some of these sectors going forward? Just your assessment on those sectors, sir.
One issue with India is that we've seen uneven growth. The West and South have been growing much faster than the East and North. And to some extent, I think the state governments were responsible. And to some extent, because of historical reasons. From British times, some of these areas have had certain disadvantages which they've not been able to overcome. Okay, so I think the first step would be to ensure we have more balanced growth. And like it is happening today, you have a more dynamic CM in a state like Andhra. He's building a new capital.
Correct.
Okay, so you need dynamic leaders in each of these states to jumpstart growth. And, if that happens, India's GDP growth can be much better than what it is today. Because some of these states are low-hanging fruits. They're growing at subpar kind of rates. Okay, so I think while the central government has done most of what it is required to do, and there is very little corruption at the central government level, the state governments are still, controlled by bureaucracies which vested interests, which don't allow flourishing of businesses. And especially in the north and east, You need more dynamic governments which will drive businesses. I think all political parties have to understand that entrepreneurs are required to drive the growth of India. You cannot badmouth somebody like an Ambani or Adani. They are finally creating jobs. You may personally not like them, but the amount of jobs they are providing, the government cannot provide. These are good quality jobs and they generate value. Unfortunately, the jobs which the government provides, they actually don't create value.
Sure.
So I think simplification of various things, for example, real estate registration or GST, which is hopefully will get simplified tomorrow or the day after. Even if it is simplified, the compliance costs are very high. You go to file GST returns, it is so complex. The small businessman has to undergo the same kind of trauma a big company has to undergo. Big company will have a consultant, a small company doesn't have. And they look at you as if you're out to cheat them. Not everybody is like that.
True, very true.
So I think the ease of doing business is in simplifying compliance, not looking upon taxpayers or businessmen as chores. I think that mindset has to go.
Fair. So coming to any of the, let's say next 5-10 years, any significant themes or sectors you see in India where the fund managers like us or investors should pay attention to?
I just follow news broadly. I don't have in-depth knowledge of many of the new businessmen, but I'll take you back 25 years. Okay, some of the marquee names then. We always say that when we screen for business, we look at companies which have low capital intensity, okay, which will have high margins.
Yeah.
So I will give you 3 companies from 25 years ago, which were highly capital intensive, which were well-known names even then and delivered much better returns than all the fancied themes of those years.
Yeah.
25 years back, ICE was the favored theme.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, media, IT.
Technology, yeah.
Yeah, it was the favored theme. 3 companies. Reliance, the market cap 25 years back was between 30,000-40,000 crores.
Yeah.
Today is 18,000 crores. 18 lakh crores.
Lakh crores, sir. Yeah.
18 lakh crores.
Yeah.
It has moved up 50 times. So today many guys will not buy Reliance saying that the market cap is already 18 lakh crores.
Yeah.
We thought the same thing 25 years back. 30,000 crores. Okay. Yeah. It is highly capital intensive.
Correct.
So people today prefer all these capital market plays because they require zero capital for growth.
Yeah.
Here is a company which is capital intensive, has delivered 50 times, in terms of market cap growth over 25 years. Second is Mahindra and Mahindra. 25 years back, there was a talk that they would buy out Punjab Tractors. And I remember meeting an executive in Chandigarh to Punjab Tractors. He said, well, look at their market cap, look at my market cap. That point of time, they had almost the same market cap.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Mahindra was around 2,000 odd crores market cap. Today, it's almost 4 lakh crores.
Wow.
Highly capital intensive business. At that point of time, as a fund manager, I preferred to buy Punjab Tractors over Mahindra and Mahindra. 5 years later, M&M bought Punjab Tractors. In 2007, they bought out much of Tractors. So it is again a capital intensive business. Very difficult to assess at that point of time. It will become what it has today.
Become now, yeah.
Third is, of course, HDFC Bank. Again, banking is money is the capital.
Correct.
You have to periodically raise money. Okay, and it is in 25 years. It has given you 80-90 times.
Wow.
These are all simple themes which existed then. Probably similar themes exist today. Very few people would invest in manufacturing expecting it to give this kind of compounding.
Correct.
We all look for niche businesses, capital marketplace, platform companies. Now, the problem with the platform companies, yes, it is a new way of doing business, number one. Once the platform is in place, you think you can push anything through the platform. But the problem is already you look at the valuations of these companies, they are already factoring in quite a bit of the gains which will accrue to them going forward. So we need to be very careful about paying for growth. How much do you pay for that growth? So that I think
in fact, my next question was on valuation and the liquidity. Wherever we stand today, from a liquidity and the valuation perspective, sir, how do you see investor balances out the optimism versus the caution on the valuation side?
I think we have to accept the fact that India valuations will probably, unless there is an accident, like a COVID or something untoward happens, we have to accept the fact that valuations will remain high in India because of liquidity. I think the mutual funds have done a very good job in selling the concept of SIPs, and the flow of money is relentless month on month. My daughter joined TCS last year, and the first thing she has done is to do a bit of an SIP into a fund. Okay, so she's just one among millions of people who are joining the workforce. We are all contributing to this SIP snowballing, kind of snowballing. And that being the case, I think valuations will always be high. So to that extent, I think if we've seen the market give 13% compounding last 30 years, maybe we'll have to accept a much lower return, maybe 10%, given the fact that liquidity is very high today.
Correct. And sir, do you still see India as a stock-specific market? You still see that theme continuing to invest into some of the idea generation in some of the scalable sectors, which can really create value for the investor, incremental value?
Well, I will answer this in two parts. The mainstream fund management industry, which caters to the retail investor, stock picking is not going to lead to outsized returns because they're all running diversified portfolios. If you have, and fund sizes have become very large. If you have a 50,000 crore fund, your stock picking skills cannot impact a 50,000 crore portfolio.
Correct.
So I think the fund management industry is trending towards market kind of returns. I don't think they can do much better than that.
Okay.
But stock picking definitely is something which will impact a good portfolio manager positively. But these will be boutiques or individual investors who can have much better returns than the market through their stock picking skills. But the general fund management industry, I think it is becoming increasingly commoditized, and it will return only market kind of returns. I don't think it will be able to beat market. Even, we've seen the large cap funds now more or less giving the same returns as the index. And I saw data about 3 days back about even small cap funds where stock picking should give you an edge. Even small cap funds are now underperforming benchmarks. One, because I'm not blaming the portfolio managers, because I think the industry has attracted too many bright guys. So the chances of uncovering something which is mispriced has reduced.
And also the size also, as you rightly said,
yes,
is sort of becoming sort of a demeanor in a way.
Plus, there is an institutional imperative. For example, there was this question about buying deep value stocks. How long can you hold on to deep value stocks? There is this celebrated case of Michael Burry, who was covered in the Big Short, who held on to his positions for a long time. If you're a rational fund manager and you're managing public money, there are short-term imperatives and long-term imperatives.
Correct. You have to manage both. Yeah.
You have to manage both. So you cannot fill your fund with only deep value stocks which will play out 3 years from today. I'm going to be evaluated on my performance over 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. But how many fund managers are going to last for 5 years, 10 years? If they do too well, they'll take a promotion and move on. So finally, what boils down to is you have to manage the short-term expectations. And there, you cannot fill your portfolio with too many such deep value kind of stocks, which may play out tomorrow, which may play out next year, which may play out 2 years from today. That plain vanilla mutual fund, which caters to a retail investor, cannot do. But a boutique or an individual investor can take those concentrated calls and wait it out.
Sure.
Provide this alignment between the investor and the fund manager.
Sure. Sir, there are some questions from the chat, and my team has just collated few. They would like to ask you a few questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir, for your thoughts that you gave over the past 45 minutes. We have some questions in the chat box, so I'll just read them out for you and then we can take some of them. The first question is on cyclical versus secular plays. So, as a long-term investor, how would you balance between cyclical sectors like commodities and infra versus more secular themes like financials or consumers? And the second part of the same question is, for cyclical plays, how would you identify the start and the end of a cycle?
I think it is easier to answer the question on cyclicals, tougher to put it in practice. Okay, when margins are very high, when the margins hit peaks, that is when probably the cyclical sectors peak out in terms of valuation. They will look very cheap. At the peak of the cycle, the valuations, the PE ratios, etc., will be very cheap. Okay, bottom of the cycle, probably they'll make losses. So there will be no E at all. So it is very difficult to calculate the PE. For example, sugar has not created value in the long run. If you look at sugar, very few companies have really created value. But from bottom of the cycle to top of the cycle, there are people I know who made tons of money in sugar stocks by buying when they are loss making and selling when the margins peak out. So as far as cyclical companies are concerned, what you have to watch out for is, are they trading at low PE, which means they are at peak profitability. That is why they're at very low PE. So those are some of the, when they are at bombed out kind of market caps related to book value is when you buy them. When the valuations relative to book value peak, and these cycles repeat.
Yeah.
So secular, I think a good quality company you buy and hold, they will go through ups and downs in terms of valuation, not in terms of business. They may peak at the PE may go to 50, they may come down to 30. But over the long run, if you hold on to these stocks, irrespective of the PE, unless, of course, the PE goes crazy, 100 or 200. There are instances where secular themes have also been overvalued excessively. But if you hold it in the long run, 20, 30 years, you make very good money in secular themes.
Sure. Thank you for that. So the next question is on the topic of promoters and governance. I mean, you at the start of your talk, you spoke about governance and how first business models are important. Of course, that's governance is how you would look at companies. But over the years, corporate governance in India has evolved a lot. Do you think promoter behavior and governance standards have truly improved, or are investors still taking significant risks when it comes to this aspect of investing in a business?
It has improved. I will not deny that, because the moment a company becomes listed, there is more pressure on promoters to behave. And I think governance standards over a period of time definitely have improved. But having said that, I think there is, if you move down the cap curve, there are many instances of promoter misbehavior, and you will know, during a bull market, profits magically appear, and during bear markets, profits magically disappear, and a lot of things happen. Many promoters dress up their boards just before going public. Once they go public, they sack some of these directors. A lot of things happen. So I think we need to be careful about promoters as we move down the cap curve.
Sure. Thank you for that. The next one is on behavioral investing. So many investors know what they should do, but emotions get in the way when they have to make rational decisions. What's your advice, what's your advice on dealing with fear and greed in investing?
So I think it happens to all of us. So if I am tracking a particular stock and have a limit at which I will put a buy, and the market cracks that day, even if it hits my price, I will not buy. I'll wait for a better price. So I think it is not a question of whether somebody is a good investor or a bad investor. Like you said, it's a behavioral thing. Whether we are good or bad, we have the same kind of emotions, and there is, we don't want to lose money. So I think automating investments is the best way to deal with this. So, which is why SIP works beautifully. Over 20, 30 years, it's like a PF. Frankly, a part of your salary goes every month into PF. We don't know what happens. The government declares a certain percentage as the interest rate on your PF. We don't track what happens. But it compounds over 30 years, you're all surprised by the amount you're getting back.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that is because you're automating the investment. It is a forced saving. So if you do something similar to that in the markets as well, through the SIP route, this greed and fear goes away. We will still have the greed and fear, but because you're setting aside a small sum of money, a percentage of your salary every month or your business income every month, you are less worried about what happens to it on a monthly basis. It just keeps going there like an RD into some fund or the index, and you allow it to compound. See, if you look at it after 5 years, you may not be happy. After 10 years, you may not be happy. But if you leave it like that, and you keep doing this diligently over 30 years, you will be very happy. That is the easiest way to build wealth. There are people who say that I identified this stock and it became a 100-bagger, I make so much of money. Those are all outliers. That is not an option available to most of us. 99.9% of us, that option is not available to us. But this option of monthly investing and deriving the benefit after 30 years is available to all of us.
So the next question is on fund manager selections. So what, in your opinion, would be some of the key traits that you would look at when you choose a fund manager to manage your money?
The biggest trait I look for is him to be curious. He should be interested in knowing things which normally does not interest others. He should be willing to turn every stone, not have any bias. It may be a red-put stock, but you go and meet a promoter, you get new insights.
Correct.
Okay, you don't need to buy the stock, but you need to be curious. You need to be open to looking at every listed opportunity. Of course, there are bandwidth issues there, but you have to rely on your colleagues or whatever to look at as many companies as possible. I think these are the two things which matter. Degrees don't matter in this business. There is no entry barrier. I may have managed money for 20 years. There is a kid who's just come out of college. He probably has more insight into some of the things than me, because he's got exposed to new things which I have not. So this business is the greatest leveler. You don't require very high IQ. In fact, very high IQ is an issue, because people with high IQs try to do too much.
Yeah.
And in this business, being patient yields better results than having a very high IQ.
So we have a lot more questions, but given the paucity of time, I'll just take one more question from the Q&A chat and then hand it back to Jinesh. So the question is on India's demographics. I mean, we did speak a lot about China being a graying economy in that sense. How do you see India's young population translating into investable opportunities?
I think that is a good question, a very difficult question to answer, because unfortunately in India, most people want to go to college. In US, less than 25% of the people who pass school go to college. Others take up some trade skills, etc. Okay, India, unfortunately, and many of the people who graduate do not have skills, number one. Two, the growth in India has not been labor intensive. And most of the graduates are looking for white collar kind of jobs. We are not creating, enough white collar jobs for graduates. Somebody who has a trade, a tailor, for example, his son goes to college, he doesn't want to be a tailor, even if he is a master tailor. All of us are hung up on being a graduate, even if it is being a history graduate or whatever, which will not make you employable. And unfortunately, we are not creating enough jobs. So that is an issue. I don't think we can whitewash that. And there is, very few jobs being created in rural areas, which is why you have flight of people from rural areas to cities. So I don't know how the government is. It's a very tough question to answer. Unless the growth picks up, the growth is of a very different order. And we've had jobless kind of growth last 5 years. We need growth which create jobs. Now, I don't know. Frankly, I don't have the intellectual wherewithal to answer that question, but definitely we need to create more jobs.
Sure. Thank you so much for those answers. I'll hand the floor back over to Jinesh.
Thank you, Vinayak. Sir, just since we are already 60 minutes into the conversation, maybe last question from our side, and if you want to then say anything more, happy to hear from you. Sir, is there one principle you believe which will remain valid even 50 years from now, regardless of how the market, economies, and technologies evolve?
Good companies will deliver outsized returns. I think that is a principle which will hold good 50 years from now. And that is a holy grail which all of us are hunting for. That good company which we can invest in. The only problem today is that the industry has become so competitive. Even if you identify a good company, the valuations are so high, you don't know whether returns will justify buying into it. So I think your job is much tougher today than it was in my time. Definitely. I think we need to accept the fact and also recognize the returns going forward will be lower than what it was in the last 30 years. Because there is too much money chasing companies, and too many good people are researching stocks. So they're not leaving even one uncovered stock.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fair, sir. Means Thank you very much, sir, for this insightful session. Really helpful for my team, me, my investors, my partners, and my friends. Thank you very much for coming on this show. It's been an honor for us. Also, the warm thank you to our investors, partners, and friends who have joined us this evening. As we conclude, let us carry forward the spirit of learning, resilience, and patience that has been the essence of today's conversation. We look forward to walking this journey together and many more such enriching exchanges in future. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shiva sir, for gracing this occasion. Now we can conclude the call. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.